Hello guys, in this video I want to talk about pressure and how it connects to some other aspects of your offense. First of all, it's all about the basics. You can find many other guides on this topic and most likely some of them will be much better quality. What makes this one slightly different is the fact that we talk Strive here, Kai specifically with some examples, so if this is your main character, perhaps you'll find this useful. Now, I don't want to make this video any longer than necessary, so topics like neutral and Nokizeme are not going to be covered. Let's just assume you're plus, you want the neutral, it's your turn to show how awesome your pressure is. So, let's get started with types of pressure, and specifically uninterruptible block strings. To keep it simple, let's say you don't know the other guy, his level, habits, and so on. What's important to remember is that just because you think it's your turn, Soul doesn't necessarily have to agree with you. He might have a bright idea to mash, and it's your responsibility to stop him. So the first thing you want to establish is the basic uninterruptible pressure, something that he cannot poke, but might as well try anyway, because he's new, feels ballsy, I just wants to see your reaction. Take a look at this scenario. Being a protagonist, Soul actually has the balls to mash 5k during your jab safe block string. And this is what a winning condition for you looks like. He doesn't respect you, so he gets hit. But eventually, he's gonna block. Now, if he doesn't, I suggest you just repeat it as many times as you need. Let him self-destruct. When he does block though, it's important to realize you no longer have your winning condition. All of your specials are minus, some more than others, so you definitely want to choose your block string enders carefully, because every jab safe string is now punishable. If you have to pick a special as a block string ender, 2-1-4S is likely your default option, simply because of the pushback. It's actually minus and can be punished. Some characters with longer normals have easier time doing that, others require IB to kill the pushback, but it can be done. Still, if you want to stay alive after a block string without a meter, 2-1-4S is likely your safest bet. Now, with that said, remember we actually have a problem. Our protagonist here started to block, and you can definitely go for the mix, and we're gonna talk about it, but it's often not the best possible option. At the very least, there is another type of pressure I would like to discuss, that being block strings with delays. Let's try to build upon what we already have. Same combos we did before, only now, since the other guy doesn't wanna mash, let's delay certain hits to bait him and get a counter hit. As you can see, we no longer expect Soul to mash in the first frame, but we make it tempting for him to poke you when he sees a delay. Of course, once again, this relies on him hesitating, which means we lose if he doesn't. What Soul does right now to beat delays is exactly what he did in the beginning. He just mashes on the first frame. But since we already know how to deal with it, let's explore another possible way your opponent can adapt to delays. And what I'm talking about is, of course, blocking. Instead of mashing, some people might actually become more patient or even intimidated, so they turtle instead. And once again, this is where you might want to go for the mix. Or not, because we still have some other ways to deal with blocking. I wouldn't call the type of pressure, because it's more like a trick, but whatever, let's just get into it. Now, if you're wondering what the hell it is, I actually took the term from the dustloop.com. Couldn't find definition though, so here's mine. Pressure reset is a trick where you take the risk of being hit at a certain point in your block string, but for that risk, you also get a chance to start your pressure again. As usual, let me give you a few examples. Yeah, I know, they all look pretty different, but the idea behind each example is actually the same. Let's take a look at the first two examples again. So, instead of going for the whole block string, we decide to drop it at a certain point. If you paid attention to delay examples in the previous section, you might have noticed those are usually the same points where we delay our hits. What we do instead of delay, which is a risk in and of itself, is we actually up the game and take even more risk. We drop the block string, pray to gods of fighting games to survive recovery frames, and start the pressure again. Now let's go back to the rest of the examples. And this is what your pressure reset might look like if you decide to use 6k or 2-1 for k. You don't drop the combo, but you still gotta take the risk, because both of these moves are easily interruptible. Overall though, it's the same idea as the first two examples, just a different execution. Regardless of how exactly you reset the pressure, remember your opponent might notice you behave too ballsy and will start mashing. But once again, we know how to deal with mashing, so the real problem is, of course, yeah, it's still blocking. I mean, if you did uninterruptible block strings, delays, pressure resets, and he or she in this case still blocks, she probably has a ton of risk. Which means when you do hit, you gotta cash on the damage bonus. I think it's time for the mix. Yep, we're finally here. We gotta do something. And we might be able to do something if we have a meter, but what if we don't? Sadly, Kai doesn't have much in terms of high-low mix-up without a meter, except 5D, which is risky as hell. But this is still a viable option, given you condition your opponent to block beforehand, so let me give you a few examples. What you do, of course, and whether it works or not, depends on what exactly you've done so far to condition your opponent to block. For example, if instead of 5D you pressed something different all the time, maybe used delays, you might have a fair chance to catch people on guard, pun intended, because that's your winning condition here. But high-low mix is not the only one we get, and I would make a guess that when it comes to Kai and his meterless pressure, strike throw mix is actually more common. Of course, full dust combo does more damage, but hey, throws are safer and they also lead to Oki situation, so it's all pretty good, because the charged fireball can make others miserable. Another thing I would like to add is that every high-low and strike-throw mix-up we've seen so far was essentially an alternative to pressure reset. So what that means, you lay the ground for them in the exact same way. Okay, all that said, theory is just theory. It's useless without actual practice, and this is something that I like myself, but I truly think one could learn much better with a goal in mind, awareness, and understanding of what's going on. I hope this helps to connect the dots when it comes to basics of pressure, and eventually, with enough practice, you become more aware of what's going on the screen. And that's all, ladies and gentlemen. Though I'm pretty sure only sweaty guys watch my videos anyway. Smash the like button if you like this one. dislike if you didn't, and don't forget to leave a comment below, I appreciate it.